Now, last week I uploaded this video right here talking about forgiving the abusive narcissist while going no contact. And really that video was just a very drawn out stylistic approach to saying that I believe no contact is the most forgiving thing that you can do. Now, what's interesting is that the video was met with mixed reviews by a lot of you. A lot of you jumped on there and said things like, I forgive nothing. I don't have to forgive the abusive narcissist. I'm never going to forgive them. Which, by the way, I completely understand. That's why we're all here. I've struggled with that for years myself. And then there's others of you who jumped on there and said, I'm so glad that I've been able to forgive and move on. And I believe that's a place where we should all strive to be, right? And so it gave me an idea to make a follow-up video for you this morning, talking about how to forgive the toxic narcissistic abuse. But not only how to forgive, but how to forget the toxic narcissistic abuse so you can move on. That's what we're going to talk about. As I thought more about this issue of forgiving toxic narcissistic abuse, I had to ask myself some important questions. And that is the issue really how to forgive toxic narcissists, or is the issue, what is forgiveness? How many of you were raised to believe that it's good to kiss and make up or to hug it out anytime you're in an altercation with somebody? Shake hands. And all this stuff is good and fine if you're reconciling a situation so that you can maintain a relationship. But with toxic narcissistic abuse, you know that there is no reconciliation. You're not trying to reconcile. You're trying to break free. You're trying to get away. You're trying to leave the abuse behind you. And so the problem is that as you grow older, you have cognitive dissonance because as you're separating, you're not able to see the forgiveness because you can't see the handshake, you can't see the hugging and making up, you can't see the mutual understanding. So this leaves you with this question, am I a forgiving person? But what I want to share with you in this video is that these things, reconciliation, have nothing to do with forgiveness. Forgiveness is something that is completely different. What is forgiveness exactly? Forgiveness is simply the decision to not take revenge. That's all it is. There's no more to it. There's no less to it. It's no more complicated than that. Forgiveness simply means it's a decision to not take revenge, to not pay somebody back, to not do to somebody else what they've done to you. It's a character attribute of yourself. Let me give you another example of this. A perfect example would be of God. A lot of people go to church because they know that God is a forgiving entity. A lot of people also make the mistake of thinking that forgiveness means there's a relationship. But that's not at all what it means. Just because God is forgiving doesn't mean He has a relationship with you or you have a relationship with God. All that means is that God has the character attribute of forgiveness so that He will not wipe you out because of your wrongdoing. That is what forgiveness is. And so now the question of how do you forgive becomes easier to figure out. Once you know what forgiveness is, it's your character attribute. It's your decision not to pay somebody back for their wrongdoings. It's your decision not to seek revenge. So forgiveness is going no contact. No more complicated than that. Go no contact. Move on with your life. Do not engage with the toxic, abusive narcissist, and you have found forgiveness. It's that simple. You have found forgiveness. Own it. Be proud of that. When it comes to forgetting toxic narcissistic abuse, we're going to have to put a twist on what it is we're actually forgetting. Obviously, nobody can ask you to forget about the abuse that you have endured and witnessed. Nobody can ask you to forget about that trauma. And you shouldn't, because that trauma that you've experienced, that is now a part of you. It's a part of your wisdom. It's a part of your discernment. It's a part of what's going to help you to establish healthy boundaries in this life. So you don't want to forget about that. But what you can forget and what you should forget is the false narratives that you have had about the world that we live in. The hope perseverance, the wanting to see the best in everybody, the only focusing on the good and the positive. That's not the reality of the world that you live in. Abuse is very real. And when you get to the reality of the world, you're going to find that the world is broken, it's fallen, that for the most part, people are inherently selfish, not good. They're inherently selfish, out to get whatever they can get. The people are more into their self-interest than anything else. And when you start to adopt this and forget about the false narratives, then you'll start to forget about narcissistic abuse because you won't be in situations where you can be abused. You'll be able to spot out the extremely selfish, arrogant people that are only in it for themselves. And you'll be able to stay away from them. Again, narcissistic abuse is best described as being involved with people you have no business being with, doing things you have no business doing, and going places you have no business going. And so once you adopt this into your life, you'll be able to forget about toxic narcissistic abuse because you simply won't be around it anymore. And you'll put away the false narratives of the perfect family that you believe should exist based on the Leave It to Beaver show or Silver Spoons, because that doesn't exist. That was staged. That was staged for you and I to perceive life a certain way. You'll forget about the perfect boyfriend or girlfriend based on Instagram pictures, because again, that's staged. You'll forget about the perfect marriage that you see on billboards and posters, because again, it's all staged. It's all part of false narratives. And you'll start to grow into what is real and true and joyful for you, and you'll be able to forget about narcissistic abuse because you'll have healthy boundaries. I hope that this video makes sense and reaches a lot of you. I would like to spend more time with each and every one of you talking about this. Visit www.jointheroyalwe.com for free access to the Facebook support group. You can also find access to the Monday night live stream. You can also schedule a one-on-one appointment with me, and we will work together through this issue of forgiving and forgetting toxic narcissistic abuse, and I'll be back with more videos right here on The Royal We.